I want to recommend this book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. We have a new copy of it at the library this year because the Friends of the Library agreed to give us some money to replace books that have been checked out so much that they were looking very well loved and they needed to be replaced. And I highly recommend this book. If you haven't had a chance yet to read it or to read it to your family, this might be the year. It only has 7 chapters, so if you started a week before Christmas, you might finish on Christmas. And I'll read you just a little bit of the inside so you can get an idea of what it's about. The Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They lied and stole and smoked cigars, even the girls, and talked dirty and hit little kids and cussed their teachers and took the name of the Lord in vain and set fire to Fred Shoemaker's old broken down tool house. The tool house burned right down to the ground, and I think that surprised the Herdmans. They set fire to things all the time, but that was the first time they'd managed to burn down a whole building. I guess it was an accident. I don't suppose they woke up that morning and said to one another, "Let's go burn down Fred Shoemaker's tool house." But maybe they did. After all, it was Saturday with not much going on. It was a terrific fire. 2 engines and 2 police cars and all the volunteer firemen and 5 dozen donuts sent up from the Tasty Lunch diner. The donuts were supposed to be for the firemen, but by the time they got the fire out, the donuts were all gone. The Herdmans got them. What they couldn't eat, they stuffed in their pockets and down the front of their shirts. You could actually see the donuts all around Ollie Herdman's middle. I couldn't understand why the Herdmans were hanging around the scene of their crime. Everybody knew the whole thing was their fault, and you'd think they'd have had the brains to get out of sight. One fireman even collared Claude Herdman and said, "Did you kids start this fire smoking cigars in that tool house?" But Claude just said, "We weren't smoking cigars." And they weren't. They were playing with Leroy Herdman's Young Einstein chemistry set, which he stole from the hardware store, and that was how they started the fire. Leroy said so. "We mixed all the little powders together," he said, "and we poured the lighter fluid around on them and set fire to the lighter fluid. We wanted to see if the chemistry set was any good." Any other kid, even a mean kid, would have been a little worried if he stole $4.95 of something and then burned down a building with it. But Leroy was just mad because the chemistry set got burned up along with everything else before he had a chance to make 1 or 2 bombs. The fire chief got us all together. There were 15 or 20 kids standing around watching the fire and gave us a little talk about playing with matches and gasoline and dangerous things like that. "I don't say that's what happened here," he told us. "I don't know what happened here, but that could have been it, and you see the result. So let this be a good lesson to you boys and girls." Of course, it was a great lesson to the Herdmans. They learned that wherever there's a fire, there will be free donuts sooner or later. That's the beginning of chapter 1. And what happens is, no one was prepared when this outlaw family invades church one Sunday and decides to take over the annual Christmas pageant. None of the Herdmans had ever heard the Christmas story before. Their interpretation of the tale, the wise men are a bunch of dirty spies and Herod needs a good beating, has a lot of people up in arms. But it will make this year's pageant the most unusual anyone has ever seen, and just possibly the best one ever. I hope you get a chance to read The Best Christmas Pageant Ever.